Greetings, I am Nero, and I wanted to make this little talk video series about the games I've been playing in 2016. Originally I wanted to just tweet about them, but considering I've been playing about 51 games so far and might beat more than that, it might be a lot to tweet about and people will just die to that spam, so I thought it would be a much better thing to make this in a video format. I'll try to be brief about everything and I'll definitely not cover every game I've played this year, just some I feel like I want to talk about, and I want to cover every game in a single video. I'll make many videos for that, so that'll be nice and compact. And this won't be full summaries, I'll just kind of talk about the memory of the situation I've been playing the games in and how I felt about the games, just a little reminiscing. So starting off is Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo, or in this case for the Super Famicom, which I played it on. And I was visiting a friend at the time and it was actually his copy on his Super Famicom that I played. And it had been a game that I've been wanting to play for a long time. So it was a good opportunity for me. And the game actually was underwhelming in certain ways, and I'll get to that soon, but basic gameplay is really good in that game, I love it. And the level design in the first half is great, but at the second half of the game, the level design just kind of drops down for me. It becomes either really cheap, and for the most part it's just pretty boring. And I'm saying this as a person who really likes the first Castlevania on the Famicom or the NES, and I feel like that game is perfectly fair in every way. It never really becomes cheap, and it never really becomes boring. So that's kind of how I feel about Castlevania 4's second half. It's pretty kind of drops in quality there, but the final boss is really great. That's what I like about the game. Another thing I don't really care about in the game is the music. It just isn't really on point as much. It has its share of great tracks. Like the one musical moment in the final boss is just amazing, really. But for the most part it's kind of dull. The soundtrack is pretty dull. For that reason, Castlevania 4 is not really even close to my contender for the best Castlevania game. And a lot of people really love that game and swear by it, but I don't really want to do that. There's my reasons why. And next up is some Falcom stuff and Trails in the Sky. I was actually pretty surprised to realize that I played Trails in the Sky first and second chapters and Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2 in this one single year. It's pretty weird for me. I did own the PC version on Steam of first chapter ever since it was released, but I didn't get around to playing it until this year. And really that game is pretty amazing. People don't really often explain why it's so amazing, and sometimes people find it underwhelming for that reason. For some people the game doesn't really click. For me it clicked really well, and that was fortunate. One thing that's really great is obviously the way they built the world, and the way you have really regular NPCs with real names, and they kinda have their own issues to deal with. And it's not all about you and saving the world and stuff like that. And when you talk to NPCs, they kinda share their worries with you, and when you progress the story and talk to them again, they have more stuff to say. And sometimes things are resolved too, and it's really interesting to see these little stories of these little NPCs going forward over the course of the game. Another thing is that the combat system is really great, really. I think it really implements a well-designed organic difficulty that doesn't really work for everyone. Some people don't really feel like taking advantage of the combat system, since there's no actual need to if you want to win, but if you want to be efficient and stylish and fast or anything else, you just kind of start playing around with the system a lot, and it becomes really satisfying that way. And it encourages you too with the satisfaction you get out of it. It makes the game flow much better, but it doesn't really have any like solid reward. Like, it doesn't give you any more XP or money or anything else if you play well. It's just, the game just becomes more fun, and that can arguably not be enough to encourage gameplay like that, but whatever. The story, the Monday story of Trace in the Sky first chapter is really good, in my opinion, since it's very unusual to have such a modern setting, and the way it escalates into something less so is also what makes the game so exciting to go through, for me at least. Some people find it boring, some people don't so much, but I just found it very interesting to see what will happen next. And the second chapter I started almost right away after beating the first chapter, for reasons anyone will understand if they have played those games. If I had to endure the wait for the second chapter as the same wait people had to go through if they played it on the PSP when it first came out in English, I don't know if I could have taken that. Yeah, Trace the Sky was great. Pretty much my favorite RPG so far. If you would talk about turn-based, I kinda like to split them into genres. For action RPGs, my favorite would be Ys 1 and 2. But I think Ys 8 is the best Ys game, and I'll talk about that in a later video when we get there. Since we are currently in January or so in my gaming of 2016, and that game came out in July. Next up is Legendary Axe. I've actually made a very brief test video for Do or Die with Legendary Axe, and I'm still kind of in the process of getting that format or that style of challenge into a format that works on YouTube. It kind of requires really specific games, but sorry, I'm messing up my words. Legendary Axe was a PC engine in 2015, I believe. And I also got the game to test, since the PC engine I bought was region broken. It requires a region breaking for the HuCard games, but not for the CD games. If you don't really understand what I'm saying, I don't feel like explaining it. Google what the PC engine or the TurboGrafx 16 or TurboGrafx CD are, and Wikipedia will probably explain it to you. I'd explain it, but I don't have time right now. Legendary Axe was the first game I actually bought for the system, if we ignore the Ys collections I bought. I kind of bought those just to have them, not necessarily to play them, but I just ended up getting a PC engine, so it worked out well. And also played that game in a few conventions down the line. And originally I was made aware of it by GameSack. GameSack is a great channel for gaming reviews, if you want to call them reviews, but those two are a great bunch. Shout out to Joe and Dave, even though I'm a much smaller YouTuber than they are, so it's kind of funny to give a shout out to a larger YouTube channel, but if you do not know about GameSack, check them out. The Legendary Axe is pretty unique for its time, since it's the sort of game where it's not really... It's an action platformer, and it puts a lot of focus on being very precise with your attacks. There's this stamina system in the game that so basically you charge your attacks with a passive bar. You don't have to hold anything. The attack bar charges, and when it's at the full charge you will deal more damage. That was a cool effect there in this game that I'm playing right now. And that kind of encourages you to play carefully and do very precise attacks so that you can deal more damage that way than just flailing your X around for trying to get as many hits in as possible. A single heavy hit will be much better than maybe even 4 normal hits. Seems like I need to adjust my disc here. And it's a pretty difficult game as well, but I managed to get through. That game is Legendary Axe is a great game. If you're content with emulating and don't really care about having a PC engine, I really recommend you play the game, since it's pretty unique. I think that's enough to wrap up this episode. Thanks for watching or listening to me, and see you again.